Pigweed here. Today we review a stout and discuss the controversy around Snow White. Good evening, good evening.
Hey, good to see you, Pigweed. How about some beer and conversation?
Very good idea. What are we drinking?
So this is a stout. It's a joint venture between Guinness and the Brooklyn Brewery.
Oh, well, that's interesting. I look forward to that.
Okay, very good. So what's on your mind?
Well, I'm sure you've heard all the hubbub about the new Snow White.
I have.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. I don't want to talk about that.
Okay.
I don't want to talk about how Disney ruined the 1937 Snow White.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about how the 1937 Snow White messed up the Brothers Grimm's Snow White.
Ah, okay, very
So,
good.
you know, one level deeper.
One level deeper. Okay, very good. All right, but I want to get into this beer.
Wow,
So
you've
this
got
is-
something special here.
Yeah, it's an interesting can.
It is.
And so this is our friends from Guinness, and it's called Fonio Stout. Now,
Right.
you know, I've been brewing for a long, long time, and I've heard of all kinds of different grains. I'd never heard of Fonio before.
Because you didn't spend much time in West Africa, apparently.
No, I have not. Apparently it's a West African grain that they used in the brewing of this stout. And there's also some other flavors in there. So this
But it makes sense. Remember when we did the show on Ireland? Well, realized we did a little section on Guinness, of course. How much stout they drink in Africa?
Oh, I know. Yes, Guinness is all over the world.
Yeah, and and Nigeria drinks more stout than Ireland.
Yeah.
More Guinness.
Yeah, well, there's a lot more people in Nigeria than in Ireland. But yes, Guinness.
And so this
Guinness is a big deal.
This is not a weird combination.
No,
the
it's
fact
not.
that an African influence on an Irish stout. No, the Guinness is everywhere.
That's right. It's
And so they decided, well, this African version is going to contain some Fonio.
Yes, so it's got the Fonio in there. Apparently, it also has some like coffee kind of overtones.
But
to
it does not go ahead and get in there. It does not. It's just regular carbed, right? Right.
Yeah, it's not a nitrogen. It's CO2, and it's a little higher in the alcohol than a Guinness Draft. It's 6.2. You know, a lot of people think of Guinness as a heavy, strong beer, but Guinness Draft is actually a light beer.
It is. Yeah, people don't. They're like, I don't know. I can't drink that heavy stuff.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not heavy in calories, and it's not boozy.
It's not heavy in flavor. It's just dark. That's all. It's just dark. Yeah. All right. Well, this is very good, Guinness. I like it. And Brooklyn Brewery, you guys did a good job.
So what are they saying?
So now you need to get some
be
Fonio.
They say it's going to be a little bit more chocolatey and roasty.
Yeah, and maybe a little coffee. That's what it said on the box. But now I want to get some Fonio. I want to make like some muffins out of Fonio or something. How do you get it?
How do you get
probably Amazon. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or that international market down
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's probably someplace you got to be able to get Fonio, whatever the heck that is. Okay, so Grimm's Fairy Tales, and then 1937 Snow White, and then we have the new Snow White.
Yeah, so I was inspired by somebody bringing up the fact that Tolkien did not care for Snow White or anything Disney. And I've also heard somebody say Tolkien.
Yes.
What do you like?
Well, so this is hard for me because
if you look at the spelling,
I've always said Tolkien.
Yeah, me too.
My whole life, and I've started reading this guy, when I was in 7th grade or something, but apparently it's Tolkien.
Okay, well, what about that podcast? What did they say?
They said Tolkien.
Jeez, all right. It'll be hard.
It'll be hard. We should probably try to say Tolkien. Okay. That's apparently the right. But if I slip into Tolkien, it's no disrespect meant. It's
right. So interesting. So The Hobbit came out when?
Right before Snow White.
Yes, so it's 1937. Yeah. They both came out, and Tolkien is he's into fantasy and fairy tales and all of that
so
stuff,
what
right?
do the two have in common? The Hobbit and Snow White.
Oh, I couldn't tell you.
They both have dwarves.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
But not
very, very different. Not spelled the same.
What?
So Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs with an F, and Tolkien spelled it with a V. Dwarves with a V.
You're telling me the title of the movie is Dwarfs with F's?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
So, what did Tolkien not like about the Disney version or Disney in general?
Yeah,
because it wasn't isolated to. It wasn't. He didn't have a bone to pick with Snow White in particular.
Well, he did a little bit, but yes, I mean in general he didn't like Disney. But what he didn't like about Tolkien was really into Norse mythology, Icelandic stuff. Apparently, he knew Anglo-Saxon, he knew Icelandic. You know, he's an incredible scholar. He knew all kinds of stuff. But to him, dwarves were a rich mythological people. They were serious. They were noble. And here you see,
magical.
Dumpy, grumpy, boopy, and boppy. Silly comic relief dwarves.
Okay, so he didn't like that part.
Right, didn't like that. He also didn't like the dumbing down of fairy tales. I saw this great quote. I think it's from G.K. Chesterton. It said something like, "Children don't need to be told that there are dragons. Children know there are dragons. Children need to be told that dragons can be slain."
Yeah.
And the idea...
Go ahead.
Yeah, the idea of kind of making children's movies a little too simple and not... kind of making them a little too saccharine.
Yeah, I think it's... when you read Grimm's stuff, it's Grimm. And so I think when he is seeing this transition between these children's tales that had a rough edge around them, meant to, I don't know, prepare you for the harshness of life,
right?
And how the idea of children's stories became to smooth off all of the edges.
Yes.
And while he thought there's nothing wrong with children's stories that have, blood and death and
it's not, I mean, just let's say that
which in this helicopter parent era,
yeah,
sounds gross and brutal.
Yes.
How dare you read to your child?
But let's not forget that even in the Disney version, the Wicked Queen is trying to kill Snow White. The Wicked Queen sends... I mean, there's still some rough stuff going on in there.
Yeah. And even that's... Right. Even that's probably too rough for modern standards.
Exactly.
But in his time, he's like, come on, you guys have taken all the flavor out of this story.
Yeah. So let's just look at the progression here. You've got Grimm's fairy tales, which are, as you said, very grim.
Right.
And then you've got Disney, which still retains some grimness, but not quite as much. I mean, you still have the huntsman threatening to kill the poor girl. Yeah. And then nowadays you have Barney and Friends insipid silliness.
Right.
Now,
Teletubbies.
Are children better off today than they were when they were hearing Grimm's fairy tales?
I think Tolkien would say this: you prepare them for this dangerous world they're about to enter, while nowadays you either protect them from it or you deny that it is dangerous.
I've been told, and I don't know if this is true, but what I've been told is that the people who get the worst PTSD from going into combat are people who went into the whole environment with too cheery of a they believed too much in people being good, right?
Yeah.
And then they saw the actual brutality and horror of war, and it so knocked them out of their wheelhouse that they had severe PTSD. And that the people who went into war with a more realistic view of humanity didn't have quite as bad PTSD. That's what
I totally agree. There's this meme I saw just this morning. A liberal reporter talking about his experience of shooting an AR-15.
Oh gosh, I saw that.
Right, it was frightening, and
it was too loud.
He almost that he may have gotten PTSD from shooting a gun, and then the next frame is an 8-year-old girl shooting. He goes, "That was fun."
Yes.
Yeah.
That was pathetic.
It was pathetic. It was brilliant. The juxtaposition.
It was
and I'm sure that's exactly what she's going to bed at night going, "Oh, that was a fun day." And
Dad let me shoot the gun.
Yeah. And and he can't sleep because the loud
oh no,
noise.
it was too loud, and it kicked a little bit and hurt my shoulder. Oh, my shoulder is so sore! Ow! Jesus, little pussy.
God, no wonder.
Yeah. So the Grimm story is. There's some differences between the Grimm story and the Disney story.
The broader Tolkien criticisms.
Yeah.
In his mind, children can handle deep, dark themes.
Right. Yeah.
And
that they should have the idea of these stories is to carry some sort of deep spiritual and cultural weight, and that Disney kind of trivialized them.
Yeah. What about he did not like the anthropomorphizing of
animals,
like that they're speaking in their.
Which is funny because although you don't see much of that in The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings, you do see a little bit. There is this odd scene in, I think it's the Fellowship, where these hobbits are walking through the Shire, and part of the dialogue all of a sudden shifts to the perspective of a fox who sees them going by, and the fox is like saying, hobbits alone in the Shire at night. That's strange. So here he's anthropomorphizing a fox, but yeah, I guess he just didn't like the over silliness of
right. So, Brothers Grimm, what did we say? Jacob and Wilhelm?
Something like that.
And this is this particular one is 1812. Now, we did a show on Hans Christian Andersen and said how kind of bizarre his stories were. But he wrote those stories. Mm-hmm. What about the Grimm's brothers that I always thought they wrote these stories?
Yeah, they apparently went out and collected them.
Yes, they're more like folklorists or oral historians or something like that. And so they gathered and assembled stories.
And this gets more into the sort of Jordan Peterson perspective on myth, where it's something that's been repeated over and over and over again and refined, and over time it's come to distill and crystallize what generations after generation of mothers telling these tales to their children think the kids need to know.
Right. So these are probably, illiterate people that have orally passed this story down, and you could find a variation of it all over the place because it's gone its own directions. Nobody wrote it down 500 years ago,
right.
and everybody's been reading off the same script.
Right. They've just been telling the stories the way they recall them. Yeah.
So I think the first two things. In the version that I read, it's the evil stepmother. Mm-hmm. Only to find out, even in Grimm's versions, there were, editions.
Yeah.
And in the first edition, it was a real mom.
Oh, really?
That's harsh.
Yeah, it is harsh.
I think maybe it was out for a few years, and they were like,
"Yeah,
how about we?"
I think the same thing.
Let's go with the evil.
I think the same thing happens with what's the one where they drop the crumbs and they go to the house.
Hansel and Gretel.
Hansel and Gretel. Yeah, apparently
that's harsh.
That one, I think the original had the mom sends them away. You're right. But I think the later version, it's like a stepmom or something. Because the evil stepmom is easier to deal with.
Well, we'll get into
that's
we'll do that one later. And then the other thing is her age, right?
Oh my gosh. So remember the queen asks the magic mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all, and it's always the queen until Snow White. Well, in the Disney movie, you figure she's at least 14.
Yeah, I think 14
right?
is about.
Yeah, but in Grimm's fairy tales, she's 7.
Yes. So the mother pricks her, looking out the window on a snowy day.
Yes.
Pricks her finger, 3 drops of blood fall down, and she wishes for, white as snow, red as blood, black as the ebony frame of the
window.
Of the window, and then she has a child, dies. She's the queen, right?
Yeah.
And then the king remarries.
Yes.
And that's how we get the evil stepmom. And I guess this vain woman has been looking in the mirror for, in this version, 7 years until the child is old enough to be the fairest in the land.
Right.
And
she's 7.
And she's 7.
That's a little creepy, but anyway.
It is. And so, all right, let's stick with the 7 part, get this over with. So when she's taken away in her poison apple coma, I'm thinking, maybe just in the Grimm's version, she's in this coma for 7 years or 9 years. But when I listened to it, didn't really seem like it was that much time passed at all before she her body is taken back to the castle of the prince, and well, this is another distinction.
Well, another thing is that in the Grimm's version, the queen tries to kill her 3 different ways. First, by tightening her bodice too tight and basically depriving her of breath. And then second with a poisoned comb, and then third with the poison apple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So she comes to the house. Well, what about the 1937? It's just the apple?
I think it's just the apple. But here's another thing. Every time in the Grimm story, every time the queen goes out to visit Snow White, she has to go over 7 mountains.
Okay.
Like, I've walked over mountains before. That's a bit of a trip to go over 7 mountains.
Disguised as an old woman with selling wares.
That's right. I mean, she was devoted to trying to kill this girl. So she goes over.
So the last time the dwarves say, all right, well, let's back it up. The huntsman tries to kill. She sends the huntsman out to kill her.
Right.
And bring me her heart.
That's the Disney. That's the Disney. In the Grimms, bring me her lungs and her liver or something.
Oh, I thought maybe the heart was sanitized out of the Disney version, but she does still want proof with the heart.
Yeah, in the Grimm's version, it's to bring her the lungs and the liver, and in the Disney version, it's bring her the heart. And that's more sentimental, because it's supposed to be kind of a love story.
Gross now, but she doesn't say she wants to eat it.
Exactly. And in the Grimm version, she brings back the heart, and the lungs, and the liver, and eats it, that's pretty gross. But,
yeah, I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah.
So that's we're talking about distinctions here. Yeah. So when the huntsman decides to bring her back a boar's organs, she runs off, climbs over the 7 mountains, I guess, and then comes upon the house. Yeah. And she looks in there, and everything's tiny.
Oh, this is another thing that Tolkien hated about the Disney version, by the way. In the Grimm's version, the little house is very orderly.
Yeah.
Everything is neat and proper. It's like you don't get the idea of stupid Sneezy messing everything up. You have proper men who have everything nice and tidy and orderly.
And for some reason, they prepared their meal before they went to work.
Which is very strange.
I guess this way, you come home and you just pop it in the microwave. And it's all ready for you.
Yeah.
So, yes, that's an interesting distinction because in Snow White,
it's all a mess.
Yeah, they're like, at least apparently they're a bunch of toddlers here.
Yeah. That's right.
Who live by themselves.
Disorderly toddlers.
Don't know how to keep house. Anyway, I'll straighten up. And so that was that's one of the other dwarf distinctions.
Yes. Yeah.
And then so she comes in. So they
she takes a couple drops out of everybody's cup of wine.
There's something very Goldilocks-y about it because then she tries she tries just a little bit of the food just so she doesn't eat all the food off of the one plate. Mm-hmm. But then she couldn't get comfortable in any of the beds. So like one one's too small and one one's too hard. And so very Goldilocks-ish.
It is very Goldilocks-ish.
And then
she sleeps in the 7th bed. And then the 7th dwarf has to spend the night. He has to sleep 1 hour in each of the other 6 dwarves' beds.
In the Grimm version. Yes. I don't really remember what the Disney version. That was kind of goofy.
Yeah. Hey everybody, thanks for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill.
If you like the show, please review, recommend, tell a friend.
If you'd like to write to us at pigweedshow@gmail.com.
And if there's something you'd like to hear us discuss, please let us know, or you can just send us a beer.
I don't remember what happened with the beds in the
No, I don't remember that being a thing. But in both cases, even though they kept their house pretty nice, the Grimm version, just equal to the similar to the Disney version. They're like, you can stay here, but I do a little work around here. While we're off at work, you clean up, and this should be a fine arrangement.
Yeah.
But don't answer the door because there's a lot of creeps out there.
And especially when you told us the story about that wicked stepmother of yours.
Yeah. And of course, the wicked stepmother shows up 3 times. Eventually does poison her, but the apple trick after she's been tricked twice.
Yeah.
Every time the dwarves come home, she's laid out on the floor, about to die.
Right.
And so the third time, so she's like, "All right, I'm definitely not going to be tricked by this old lady again." And
But she just like wears a different color wig or something.
yeah, but she says, "Look, I'll cut the apple in half, and I'll eat one half, and you eat the other half."
Yeah,
just
it's like
to
half
show
is
you.
red and half is white. It's
Yeah,
a weird apple.
Yeah, it's a weird apple.
Yeah.
And she, she just put poison in one half the apple,
Right.
and that wasn't so hard. And that's when. Now, how does the so then she passes out. She goes into the coma. They put her in a coffin.
They're going to bury her, but they can't stand to bury her because she's so beautiful.
And then the prince just happens along.
No, so they put her in this like glass coffin.
Yeah.
And then put it up on top of a mountain or something. And one of the dwarves guards it at all times, which is kind of interesting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the
I
prince
remember that.
somehow comes by and sees the coffin and says, "Oh, she's so beautiful. I need to have her."
And 7.
Yeah, she's 7. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and wants to take her back to his castle, and they won't sell her for any price, but they will give it to her. so then they're carrying the Snow White back, and they like trip and bump the thing. The apple comes out of her mouth, and she wakes up again.
Yes, it was just like a Heimlich maneuver. She just
Right.
It was
But
just
for all
locked.
all that time, she's apparently just fine, just laying there, no food, no water, no nothing. But she's
nothing, not
Okay.
breathing. I think apple stuck in her throat, and really, I guess once the apple comes out, then the poison dissipated,
I
or
guess, who
something.
knows,
So then she comes to life, and then hopefully she ages about 7 or 8 years,
at least,
and then
and then she marries the prince, and everything's lovely afterwards.
yes. So there is no, it's sort of a fairy tale trope of. This spell can only be done by a kiss from your true love.
Yeah, well, that's
And
the
so that's
Disney
not-
version.
Yes, that's and it's
trying to make
it's
it
not
into a love
specific
story.
to this
and- yeah.
to this fairy tale.
Yeah.
It's a thing, but it was not in Grimm's.
No, it was not in Grimm's. Now, the other thing, interestingly, not in Grimm's, is in the Disney version, the Wicked Witch is running away. The Queen is running away.
No, yeah. So then, when they get married,
Yeah.
there's a scene here.
Yes. So
Yeah.
in the Grimm's version, when the prince marries Snow White, they invite the Wicked Queen to the wedding. I don't
Yes.
know why they do, but they
Right.
do. And she comes, and they have something prepared for her.
Yes, they do. They're like, okay, we're gonna have cake and we're gonna have a dance, and I've got something else in mind.
Here are some shoes for you to wear.
Some shoes for
Did
you
you
to
ever
wear.
watch the made-for-TV special called The 10th Kingdom?
I know.
It's kind of fun. It's kind of silly. It's sort of a conglomeration of a whole bunch of different fairy tales all in one story.
All right.
And it's actually kind of fun to watch. But in that movie, they have these iron shoes that they put in the fire and get them blazing red hot. That
So they steal this idea from
they stole
Grimm?
it from Grimm's.
Okay, so
But
how does the Grimm story end?
that's what happens in the Queen shows up to the wedding, and they put the iron shoes in the fire, and you have to wear these and dance until you die.
It's until you die. Now, so what happens in Disney? They get married, and the Queen's just not invited, and she's never heard from again. Or what?
after she poisons Snow White, she's like runs away, and there's thunder and lightning and stuff, and she falls off a cliff and dies. I mean, nobody can actually kill her, of course, because that would be mean. But
before Snow White marries the prince.
I think so. Yeah,
Okay, so
I
she's
think
just out of the picture, and
Yeah.
then the story continues.
Right.
But yes, that's very different from the red hot iron
shoes.
dancing shoes.
Yes, I know. That would be kind of rough. Okay,
Jeez.
here are these shoes. We're going to put them on you, and you're going to dance until you die. Wow. Yeah. So a lot of differences between Grimm and Disney, but Disney was trying to
Hold
make
on,
it a
hold on.
little
What
more
I
fun.
have here is the Disney version. No. She does get killed. After the dwarfs come home to find Snow White seemingly dead, they chase the disguised queen and corner her on a cliff. She tries to tip a boulder on them, but lightning strikes the ground at her feet, causing the cliff to collapse. The evil queen then falls over the side with the boulder toppling on top of her.
Yeah, they chase her, and okay, I thought she had to jump off or something.
Yeah, okay, all right. So she wasn't straight up murdered or feet fired, but she was. But she did die long before the wedding. Okay.
Yeah. So that's Grimm versus Disney.
That's Grimm versus Disney, but we can't let it go, can we?
No. Now we have to. Now we have to deal with the new Disney. So we're seeing this progression, change. The Grimm fairy tales are very grim, and children are exposed to some pretty harsh stuff. Disney, still a little harsh, but it's made into a love story. It's her heart that's supposed to be cut out, not her lungs and her liver. True love's first kiss is what saves her, all that kind of romantic stuff.
Yeah. Silly goofy dwarves.
Yeah, silly goofy dwarves.
But
now we get to the new one with Rachel Zegler.
Now the whole idea of making live action versions of animated things.
It's been a cash cow.
Completely just smacks of lack of ideas.
Yeah.
We have run out of ideas.
But it's been a cash cow for Disney. It's really worked for them. They made a lot of money off of them.
Maybe I think Lion King did. Yeah. I don't. Well, The Little Mermaid. I don't know if that was such a success. It was. I didn't like. Did you watch Little Mermaid? The live action.
No.
What other live actions have been, as inspiring as the? First off, how many levels deep are we here? We've got an ancient fairy tale,
right?
Moved into a Disney version, then a third. The live action idea.
But they had to completely reimagine it for modern sensibilities.
Of course they did.
Yeah.
And in a way only Disney could.
Yeah. So the idea of Snow White showing up at the dwarf's house and having to cook and clean for them. Oh no! Are you kidding? There's no way that the girl's going to come in and clean house and cook.
No, she comes into a messy place and then dictates to them,
tells them they
how
need
to clean the place.
Yes.
It's like, what are you doing here?
Because she's a boss lady and she goes around and she fixes things by telling other people what to do.
Yes, and all right, because she's not white and she's not the fairest in the land, we have to. The fairest
means better boss lady.
No, means communist redistribution of the wealth is what fair means.
Well, that one of the things that was a recurring criticism of this movie was the crazy idea that Gal Gadot was jealous of Rachel Zegler's looks.
Well, that's the first thing. The first it's not that she's
a beautiful woman. Rachel Zegler is a beautiful woman, but Gal Gadot is inhumanly beautiful.
She's like the fifth cutest girl in your high school. She's not even. Not. Yeah, she's cute enough.
Yeah,
she's not beautiful.
She's plenty good.
And the thing is, she's already sort of established. We've already established the fact that she's West Side Story.
Yeah,
she's not white.
Yeah,
and
so she's got a beautiful voice.
So you're just going to shove it down our throats that
Snow White is not white.
Snow White is not white, and it has nothing to do with her fairness because that has to do with Marxist redistribution, and this Snow White is because it was snowy the day that she was born.
Right.
So this whole reimagining, nobody's asking for this.
Right. And nobody's asking you to turn what's supposed to be a romance, Someday My Prince Will Come, in the original Snow White.
I don't need him.
Yeah, we don't need men. What are you talking about?
And then let's do the dwarves. So it was the DEI misfits,
right?
And
they were going to have 7 diversity inspired dwarves.
One dwarf and somebody in a wheelchair and a tall black guy, and and it was so terrible that the movie had to be put off for a year.
And then they came up with these. I haven't seen it, but apparently the CGI dwarves are they're like nightmare inspiring. They're pretty weird.
Well, it's that, but also it's like a Netflix straight to net. It's like the quality So they had to reshoot all the dwarf scenes
Right.
with fake dwarves. Why? Because Peter Dinklage said you can't do this, and there's been a lot of dwarf backlash. They're going, okay, so you just took 7 dream jobs.
Right.
Guys who would have made more money on this than they made in their lives would be able to tell their grandchildren, I was in that movie, because the one dwarf who can get roles in Hollywood has decided, no dwarfs after me.
Right.
So then they had to, so you couldn't replace it with actual dwarves, the misfits with actual dwarves. You got cartoony dwarves who are at the beck and call of Snow White, when really they saved her and she should be serving them, but that's not how it works anymore.
Yeah, because you can't have a damsel in distress. That's just not allowed.
No,
anymore.
you can't have a man rescue a woman.
Right.
She has to rescue herself, or
And
she can rescue
her fairness is not fairness like being beautiful. Her fairness is fairness like being fair. You know,
yes,
it's-
the kingdom. Her father is a straight up. What's mine is yours. What's yours is mine. We distribute everything evenly.
Right.
Fairness kingdom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kingdom of Karl Marx. Yeah.
Yes, basically.
Zegler isn't white. The original Snow White, or well, not original, the Disney Snow White, the first one, she's gentle, passive character. Now she's a boss girl feminist.
Yeah. No, yes.
Yeah. No More Someday My Prince Will Come.
No.
Apparently, the Snow White's parents, there's like her parents, and there's a group of bandits or something, and they're the good guys in the new movie.
No, how nice is that?
Okay. The dwarves are CGI. Snow White doesn't do chores.
But there, I mean, in place of the huntsman that was supposed to cut her heart out, was that in the new one? I don't know.
Yeah.
No.
So the original one focuses on jealousy. The queen is jealous of Snow
Yes.
White.
And vanity,
the new one
sin
focuses
of
on
vanity.
leadership and self-discovery.
Oh,
Yeah,
of course.
because that's the modern thing.
Yes. It's what do the kids call it now? You know, your actual self, not the actual self. What's the term that they use?
Bring your genuine self. I don't know. Bring your
authentic.
Authentic. That's the
Yes,
word.
yes.
Authentic. Yes.
So yes, right. It's about being authentic and independent, of course.
Yes, and I've heard that the new one has like an anti-fascist message, and I haven't seen it, so I don't
thanks
know.
for Oh right. God! Oh, that's bold.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Oh.
boy, that's
Wow.
Yeah, so apparently one of the big problems with the movie is that Rachel Zegler was such an absolute turd on all the promotion.
Well, yes. It wasn't so much the fact that she's not as good looking as the queen.
Yeah.
And that she's not white. But yes, this part of the job is to make the rounds, right? You got to go on all the talk shows, and red carpet, and all that stuff.
And she's
then
going
you
around
have,
with this like feminist message.
you have one job: don't f this up. Don't make people hate you.
Yeah.
And instead, it's like, well, the 1937 one, so outdated. It needed a feminist updating, and
we're just the girls to do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's really about the girls. I don't. What happened? Is the guy even a presence in the prince? Even a presence?
There's no prince. There's no prince in the new one.
thought he did- I thought
She
he-
falls
he
for
did
a
something.
bandit or something like that. Yeah. Now the other thing I've heard is that Gal Gadot, who is just astonishingly gorgeous, but apparently can't act. Yeah, apparently her acting was very bad.
Oh, wow. I mean, I guess if you're Wonder Woman is more action than acting, so
yes.
maybe you didn't notice it. And,
Yeah,
and
probably
this might have required some more subtle acting. And
Yeah, apparently she didn't pull it
yeah.
off. Yeah.
But but she was clearly the fairest of them all in the real sense of the word.
Yes, in the real sense of the word.
Okay, so
what's the big picture here?
the big picture is, look, there are lots of adaptations of taking a Cinderella and you set it in New York City in 1975, and you know what I mean, you can play around with it, whatever. But if you're going to do a straight up remake, this is not the place for you to get I mean, Disney just
And we're sick.
Just
We're
a
sick of the
swing and a
boss
miss.
girl. We're sick of the boss girl story.
Cut
it out.
The live action of an animation just smacks of lack of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Then, making it boss girl. It's just nobody's asking for this.
Yeah.
And I heard there's a live action remake of Rapunzel.
Okay.
That they're putting on hold.
Okay.
I think they just
maybe they've decided live action isn't as good as they thought.
Yeah, or let's rewrite the script, or let's just shut this whole thing down.
Yeah.
Because this we're kind of sick of losing money.
Yeah. Well,
It's not really the Disney's plan.
I want to get back just real briefly to this question of how come the old fairy tales were so grim and full of death and scary stuff, and children seem to grow up okay. And nowadays we have totally saccharine, silly, stupid stories that we tell to kids, and kids have all these psychological problems, and they're scared of everything, and they're useless.
You don't think there's a connection there?
Maybe kids need to hear that it's a bad world, and you need to be tough, and you need to be able to stand up to things, and it's okay to be scared. You just have to have the courage to stand up to your fears.
And maybe that's a better message than
all the raindrops or lemon drops and gumdrops.
Yeah.
Maybe kids don't need Barney and Friends. Maybe they need something that's a little challenging.
Yeah, I mean, they can handle it more. They can handle it more than you can imagine. You're not going to give them nightmares by telling them a story where somebody fights a dragon. Somebody dies. Somebody doesn't die. The dragon does die, and
but there's the good guy who kills the dragon.
Good guy yes, and the dragon can be killed, as Chesterton says.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, I say scare your kids once in a while.
Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.